Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Dapresy's webinar today. My name is Jessica Goodrow. I am Dapresy's marketing manager, and I will be facilitating this webinar today. So in the next hour, we're going to share practical advice on how you can take your market research reporting from good to great. That way you can get the best value out of your insights. So before we begin, I would just like to let you all know that this webinar is being recorded, and we will distribute it out to all who have registered. Additionally, if you have questions at any point, feel free to type them in the question box on your screen. And here with us today, we have John Bird, who is Dapresy's Senior Vice President. He brings over 25 years of enterprise and supplier experience to the table. And he has spent many years, unfortunately, compiling presentations in these 3-ring binders. So he's extremely happy to share Dapresy's vision of online reporting with the rest of the world. Also with us today is Evelyn Dwyer. She is the Senior Director of Research at Turnkey Intelligence. Turnkey is a custom research firm for the sports and entertainment industry, and they were actually one of Dapresy North America's very first clients. And Evelyn leads Turnkey's data science team, so she's responsible for advanced analysis and reporting for custom research clients. So she builds dashboards for her teams so that they can easily track their data throughout the season and then more accurately predict their purchases. So John, would you like to get us started today?
Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you all for joining. Just a quick setup on Dapresy before we get started. But Dapresy Pro is the leading software or SaaS platform for report processing, visualization, and delivery for the market research and customer experience industry. And as a company, we have 70 employees across 8 offices worldwide. We've had great growth over the years. We have 14,000 dashboards in distribution across over 1,700 different enterprises. And what's fun is that we're working both with agencies and enterprises, and they can be from the large multinationals down to 2 or 3 person consulting shop that truly wants to improve the way they get data to their clients and make it a great experience. And when we talk to those researchers, we hear a pretty common theme. They truly want one platform that supports their needs, one that can easily pull research data in. And we all know we have a very different data structure than most other industries. But they also need to be able to support our standard market research functionality. So, being able to do the weighting and significance testing, but also correlations and benchmarks. And when I say benchmarks, maybe, yes, within the data itself, but also being able to overlay like goals or targets. So if my awareness scores, need to be at 80 and I'm at 75, to clearly communicate that in the dashboards. And they also need to be able to do, core computations of calculations of variables and create indexes. But also, things like base size suppression. So if base sizes go below a certain point, that the data is not shown, or that there's a note about the low base size, as well as things like moving averages. And there's also the key need to be able to drill into the data. So dynamically and intuitively drill down into the data to get a better view of what's going on. And then last, but definitely not least, a picture's wonderful, but at the end of the day, they want table tools that allow them to dig into the actual data, and also open-end tools that allow them to drill deeper into the open ends. And Dapresy truly is that platform. We allow you to connect directly to your survey platform, or pull in data from that survey platform through MDD, DDF, SSS, SPSS, or other sources. But then once the data are in Dapresy, being able to do your text and metadata changes, to be able to do your color management. So if you're broadcasting, or if you're building a dashboard on Coke and Pepsi, making sure that the hex codes for Coke and Pepsi are always correct, for those types of clients that are very particular about their brand colors, and we've all got a bunch of those. But also being able to do your data processing and your weighting, creating custom calculations, whether that's simple top 2 box or more complicated segmentation scores. Fun addition is being able to send out alert triggers so that you don't have to just come back to the dashboard to see what's going on. You can be notified when, hey, there's been a significant change. Please come back and check it out. And then also the ability to set up hierarchical structures. And then from there, we go to the report and visualization of data, whether it be fun infographics overlaying on maps or actual images, more traditional bar charts or dials, but also having open-end tools to dig deeper into the open responses, build word clouds and drop those into dashboards. Also, a very robust table tool that allows you to dig deeper into the actual data. We also have a document archive that allows you to put other documents. Maybe you want to store your methodology, your questionnaire, old proposals, your sample plan. I've seen very creative written reports dropped into the document archive. So it's just a good extra library or resource. And then finally, delivery of the reports. So, we have a very sophisticated platform for giving access, making sure that you get the right data to the right folks at the right time. We also have an action and closed loop management module, and then there's the core of deliverable options like single sign-on and creating public links to embed in your website. And then obviously that we must be able to support multiple platforms, and we have studies in the field where 80% of the consumption is done on a mobile phone. So it's wonderful to have a big monitor, but you also need to be able to act on the data when it's on a small platform. So the result, I've seen some great dashboards, and I'd love to show you some. So we have here's an example of an auto repair shop. It's taking their business process and their 3 core focus areas. They want to focus on resolving actual customer issues, number 1. They want to focus on improving weak spots, and they want a platform that can help share success stories across the enterprise. So in the first one, it's we've got 111 alerts, 4 in progress to be resolved. You can drill deeper into that to see what's going on. To improve your work spots, when I drill in on that, I can quickly see the 8 core attributes that they want to focus on, and note that the bottom 3 are troublesome. So we need to fix easy scheduling, waiting time, and speed of getting the car fixed. So what I love about this is it's intuitive, it's in their business process, it's engaging, it's putting the data into context, and most importantly, it's actionable. Another great example, and when you pick your filter, and this only has 1 filter, but when I pick Berlin, it's going to update the images with a picture of the actual hotel chain. But what's nice is I have, the data's in context, it's showing their look and feel. I have all the different areas around the hotel, from reception to wellness, and all the key attributes and how I'm performing in that area. To get a little more specific, let's look at what's going on with housekeeping. And this could be a report card, or this is a report card for a housekeeper, but it tells her of the complaints that she's getting, and not to focus on the negative, but of the complaints that she's getting, 11 of them are around the area of carpet cleanliness. So she now can see the room and how it's supposed to be set, puts the data in context, but most importantly, she knows that when she goes back to clean a room, that she needs to focus more on carpeting. Again, putting it into context and making it actionable. Here's an example from a business jet leasing organization. Very simple, how's my overall satisfaction? What's my loyalty index? What's my net promoter score? So you know what's going on with the overall business. But most importantly, on the right, with conditionally formatted objects, I can quickly see in red, I've got a problem in the UK, Poland, Spain, Italy, and Turkey, and I can focus on resolving those issues. Getting into brand work, we've talked a lot about customer sat work. Here's a dashboard that pulls in 2 different brand tracking programs, one for awareness of the brand and one for advertising. What I love here, again, the conditional formatting, so I quickly see, green up arrow, obviously that's good, yellow arrow down, that's not so good. And then the ability to add in these horizontal lines that show, in this example, it's showing the average across competitors, but there's no reason that couldn't be pulling from a source file that says, my objective for brand awareness is 42, and have that line there. Again, just putting more context around the data. And then last but not least, it's kind of a kitchen sink of dashboards. A lot going on this page, but if this is your business, it would make a lot of sense to you. It's looking at IT brands that have both consumer and business B2B components, but it's looking on the far left with my prospects, how aware are they of my brand, what's their purchase intent, which comes from your traditional market research, brand tracking, or brand health study. And then as you go to the right, starting to look at what's the health of my clients that I actually have. What's their net promoter score? What's their defection risk? And these are all things that this client has determined, within Dapresy they can calculate and show. So instead of, having different people talking about the brand and somebody else talking about the customer, you literally mush it all together and see what's going on. Because this is how we should be thinking about our business. What do the people look like that are coming into my franchise, and how happy are the folks that are currently in my franchise? It's just a nice way of kind of moving from good to great. And before I turn it over to Turnkey and Evelyn, Jim Collins had a great book, Good to Great, Classic Management Theory takes on the daunting challenge of identifying kind of the factors that move from good to great. And I guess the key I ask of us all is, how do we move from truly, from good deliverables in the market research space to truly great deliverables? And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Evelyn. Evelyn is with Turnkey Intelligence, and as Jessica mentioned, she's been a long-term client. Evelyn?
Thanks, John. Let me see if I can. Great. So starting out, I'll just give a quick introduction of who we are and what we do. As Jessica mentioned, we are a market research company focusing on the sports and entertainment industry. You can see a lot of our clients here. We have several clients, several teams and organizations throughout professional sports and college sports. We work with brands that sponsor teams in the industry, and then other organizations in the sports industry. So we really touch every aspect of the sports and entertainment industry. And with these clients, for a lot of them, we do full service custom research projects. And then we have some clients that use our survey software platform to conduct their own surveys, and they do their own analysis. So we kind of have the spectrum of independent clients and then people we do all the work for. In addition, we offer a service called the Surveyor Network, and Dapresy is really an integral part to this project that we've developed over the years. So this is based on a couple surveys we do with many teams and many sports events. We collect data about the fan experience on game day at these sports events, but also the experience of being a ticket member of these teams. And Dapresy allows us to show teams the results of these surveys in near real time. So when teams send out these surveys, they can log in the next day and see how they're doing. Dapresy also allows us to include comparisons to the league averages and also industry benchmarks, since we do collect this data from teams across all sports leagues. These dashboards have really grown over the past few years into a project that's now conducted with over 150 teams across the 5 major leagues, college football and basketball, minor league baseball, as well as live events at over 100 venues across the country. This project actually grew out of a project that we've done with one of the leagues for many, many years, and it's come a very long way since the first dashboard, since we first started this project. It used to be, before we started working with Dapresy, that we would collect data throughout the season, and at the end of the season, we would analyze the data and deliver one report for each team. And that was the only time the team saw their results. So it would take us a few months to get all 30 of these reports created. And then at that point, the teams almost didn't have time to make changes for the next season. So they were always asking for the data sooner, and so that they could make changes for the next season, or even get the results in the middle of the season so they can make changes before the end of the season. So this is really the perfect project to introduce a live dashboard so that we could deliver those results faster, so that we could actually get them results while the data was being collected, and also minimize the manual workload for turning those results around. So this is what our very first dashboard looked like. It is a million times different than what we have now. It's very, very basic. And was it successful? Well, not quite. Our biggest challenges the first time around were that we were introducing something brand new. We didn't have any examples, no proof of concept for our clients. We knew this was something they would want, but conveying what it was very, very difficult. So we worked with them, we put this on paper for them, designed it together. And even though they'd approved this design, they logged in and somehow it was not what they were expecting at all. They basically said, this doesn't work for us, and asked us to create manually 10 to 15 page PDF reports full of tables for every team throughout the season. So we ended up spending, despite the fact that we had all the data here, we ended up spending hours each week preparing these reports that first year. So not only did we struggle to get buy-in from the league level, get them to understand, but that first year we also noticed that the teams weren't really logging in either. And we have a few ideas of why that would be. These very first dashboards that we created, they're very basic compared to what we do now. And that might have prevented teams from getting engaged in it, from getting interested in it. Because the data was so simple, it didn't change much throughout the season. There also weren't that many metrics that we included. Like I said, it was just these 3 pages. And the only benchmark we included was data from the prior year. At that time, we did not include league averages or any industry averages. And then finally, we also didn't include any filter options. So literally what you see here, that's the only view that they were able to see. And because of all of that, there really wasn't much reason for teams to log in multiple times. And that's what we saw. They were not logging in. So things have changed greatly from that very first dashboard. And given where we started with this, given our challenges back then, one of our primary goals over the years has been to create something that is valued and that teams will actually log into multiple times. One of the ways we've achieved this is through developing different views. So now when someone logs into our dashboards, the very first thing they see is a top-line overview report. And this is where we focus our design efforts. The goal of this is to give them the quick snapshot of what's going on with their team, quickly be able to see the problem areas and things they might need to improve. The other sections of the dashboard, those are for when people who want to dig in deeper and look at the specifics. So within those detailed views, we do have trends and other aspects besides the main elements of the game day or ticket member experience. And all the filter combinations, so they can really dig into the data. For these pages, we keep the design simple. It's not as designed as the top line overview because the goal is really to make it easy for someone to find what they're looking for and to use. And so focusing on this top line overview, as I mentioned, that's where we try to design something that looks good and is easy to see what's going on right away. We have played around with the idea of infographics over the years. And the challenge with infographics is that there is a balance between the design and how much data you can show. So infographics are great for certain purposes. They really grab your attention. They look really attractive. But a lot of infographics, if you look a little bit closer, they can only show very simple data cuts and a limited amount of information. So this is an example of an infographic we created from one of our surveys that we do. And like I said, it's attention grabbing, it's attractive, it conveys information, it's easy to understand, but it's really just a few charts, a few tables And it looks great the first time around, but is it enough to get someone to log back in? Is it going to look any different the next time they log in? For us, we do want enough data for our clients to want to log in again. And this simple snapshot isn't enough for us. We want to include trending. We want to include some benchmarks. Those are very important for both us and our clients. And it's a lot of data to include. So here's another example of our surveyor network project, one of the iterations we've had over the years. Here's a situation where we did try to go more of the infographic route, more of the visual route. So it has the visuals, but it also has a lot of data. As I mentioned, there's a lot of information that we want to convey with our surveys. The problem here is that there's a lot of data points, and in order to understand what's going on, it does take a while to look at this and digest. You can't immediately see where your problem areas are, what you need to improve. And in fact, the biggest drawback for me is these trend charts. Trend charts, of course, are supposed to easily show you where things are going up or going down. Ours are so small in this case that everything looks flat, regardless of if it's actually a meaningful difference. So there are drawbacks to going so visual and still trying to convey this amount of information. Where we've landed now is that we have decided to make our dashboards simpler and cleaner, but also visually striking where possible. So this is one of our dashboards now, and our goal is to really show you the important data points right away. So at the top, it shows you how you're doing. You can compare to the venue that has the top score, the league average here. You can see your trends right away. You can see the events that have been the top rated. And we really try to call attention to the most important data points for the teams and organizations. Another example that we're using now is this example for one of our leagues, where again the design's pretty simple, but we do use the conditional formatting, the icons, to draw your attention to where things have improved or gotten worse since last year, what you're doing really well compared to the league, and what you're not doing so well compared to the league. And because the design is simpler, the icons stand out a little bit more, so it brings your attention immediately to the items that need improving. So we have certainly come a long way from that very, very first dashboard we created. And the biggest change that we've seen over the years, one of them is simply the buy-in from the leagues and the teams. As you heard, that first one, basically no buy-in from the teams, no buy-in from the league. We struggled a lot with that first one. But as we've made changes to the dashboard, as we've made it more valuable for them and listened to their feedback and incorporated their feedback, it's now become something integral for these leagues and teams to look at these results. We get teams that do log in every week to see how they're doing, so they can address problems right then and there before the end of the season. Every season, they're always asking when the dashboard is going to be up. It's never up soon enough for them. So that's been really, really great for us. And in addition, we've also greatly increased the amount of data we show in these dashboards, and we're continually getting requests to show more and more for these teams. As you can see, our very first dashboard was that very simple 3-page report, no filters, one benchmark comparison to last year. That's really grown. This same project that is based on that first dashboard is now 8 reports. It's that top line report. It has reports where you can dig into the trends over the past several years, where you can dig into the aspects of each. So not only do you see the overall food and beverage score, but you can see how you did on speed of service, quality of the food, prices, etc. And look at different filters. We have 10 to 15 different filters where teams can look at different segments of people and seeing how the experience is for each of those segments. Demographics, we have pages for the leagues to see all the teams at once. So it's really, really grown. And also, we provide many more benchmarks. We have those 5-year trends. We are able to include the league averages. And as I mentioned, because we do this survey across teams in a bunch of different leagues, we can also provide regional and DMA averages. So that, for example, in Philadelphia, the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers, they can look at how they're doing, but also compare it directly to the teams in the Philadelphia area, which are more of their competitors than the other teams in their league for that audience. So as Haynes said, our president, Dapresy has been a really great tool for delivering these results. It's allowed us to get the results to the teams very, very quickly. And it's been flexible for us to deliver the enormous amount of information that we want to share with the teams. And also, they've continually improved their software as well. So some of the things we've been able to do have come because they've added features to the software, and that's gotten us where we are today, where we can have data from multiple surveys in the same place, look at league averages compared to the team averages, and industry averages from surveys across 150 teams in the same dashboard. So it's been really great for our purposes and is a really valuable tool for the clients we work with.
Great. Evelyn, thank you very much. Jess, it looks like we're getting a handful of questions.
We do. We have a couple questions coming in. One is that we did talk a little bit about our speed. And so how fast are we able to get the data into the hands of our users versus the pre-dashboard process?
It's light years away. Because Dapresy is connected to the original data sources, it's a very quick turnaround. For us, we choose to do it daily because we're actually, with the surveys we do for a league, it's 30 different teams. So we have to first combine data from 30 surveys into one, and that data file goes straight into Dapresy every day. And so that's a super quick turnaround. We know it's accurate, so we don't have to worry about the quality of the data. Before getting all that data into one file and then preparing 30 different reports, that takes time no matter how fast you are. The simplest reports take at least a week or 2 or 3. And to deliver the kind of results that we deliver in Dapresy, if we were going to deliver 35 pages, that would take at least a month or 2. So it's light years away.
That's so great. Another question we had is, do you have, since you've been working with these dashboards for years and we've seen this amazing progression, do you have any advice to anyone who's just starting out, trying to transition to online dashboard reporting?
Sure. The biggest thing I can say is focus on the data first. Focus on the things that people need to know in real time and any benchmarks or comparisons that they'll need to put the data in context. With that very first one, the visuals don't have to be over the top to begin with, as long as it's easy to follow the data and interpret the findings. And also, you got to start somewhere, basically. Even with our design and our dashboards, it's really difficult for people to tell you what they want without seeing anything. So for us, sometimes we just have to put something on paper to build something, and then they can tell us, well, this works well, this we don't need, this is what's missing. And so that feedback is invaluable to improving the dashboard. So even if you start really simple, you'll quickly learn as people work with it what is most important, what you can add to make it more valuable, what are the barriers that are keeping them from logging in. And that's where most of our growth has come from, is feedback from our clients, from the teams and the leagues. And then the last thing I'll say, when it comes to actually building the dashboard, for us, designing what we want before building is really important. It's much easier to build a dashboard when you have a plan going in. And for us, we actually create PDFs, so all we have to do is copy exactly what's there. It's tricky enough figuring out how to show the data that you want to show, how to get it to work right, without also having to figure out the colors and the spacing and everything at the same time. And if you save colors till the end, it's really painful to go back and change the colors in every chart you've created. I've done that a few times, and it's not fun. So at Turnkey, we actually start with our analysts starting to lay out the charts and tables we want to see, the data points we want to show. And then we work with our graphic designer here, and he's the one that makes it look good. He's the one that creates all these visuals and creates a mock-up PDF for us to see and change before we commit to anything. So we get that finalized, and that's what we build on. And for us, we actually use that same PDF. He strips out all the data and all the dynamic text and images, and that's what we use as a background image for each page of our dashboard. So that helps a little bit, helps lay things out, and helps make it look good.
Perfect. Thank you, Evelyn. That's a huge help. John, a question for you is, how is Dapresy different from Tableau?
Good question.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I mean, I guess I'd say that, actually, Evelyn, I don't know. Did you guys try using Dapresy before, or Tableau before Dapresy? I can't recall.
We haven't looked in, or we didn't. I think we did. It was so long ago that I don't remember much about it. But at the time, there were definitely a lot of advantages to Dapresy.
And I mean, a lot of people compare us to Tableau. I think the biggest difference is that we were specifically designed for market research. I mean, yes, you can get data into Tableau. It's a bit of a chore. We're directly connected to most survey platforms, so it's a lot easier. Plus, there's a lot of the functionality that us market researchers need on a regular basis that Tableau does not have. There's also, the ability to blend multiple data sets into one dashboard and drill down kind of intuitively. Typically, what we see, the big comparison between us and Tableau is typically an analyst tool where I get the data set and I dig into it and I figure out what's going to happen, what I need, and I figure out what my answer is from the data, whereas Dapresy is more like the democratization of data, where I need to get the data out to a ton of people. So if you're running, a 5,000 store coffee shop, you need to get the data out to all those managers. It's a lot easier to do with Dapresy. It's specifically designed, it's very functionally designed to do that task.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Another question is, so some of the dashboards that we showed were more of a snapshot in time. And so someone's wondering if we're able to show deeper comparison over time versus just the month from the previous month.
Yeah, great question. And it's funny I get this question. I guess I need to do better examples. And Evelyn showed some trends over time, but typically you'll have a really nice landing page that has all your KPIs and you can see what's going on across the entire business. But intuitively, if you see, your brand awareness is down 5%, your next thing in your brain is like, okay, I want to see that trend. So intuitively, yes, you can click, you could set it up, you could click on that measure and drill down and see just a good old-fashioned bar chart or line chart, however you want to look at the data over time. But yeah, great question and good clarity. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question is, how much design work is required on the designer's end? So this person who asked the question, they say they typically create the reports for their clients in PowerPoint. So what would the learning curve be like in order to use Dapresy?
Evelyn, do you want to take that? Or you want me? I'm biased. I think
sure. I would say there's a little bit to learn. I think the biggest learning curve is the back end, actually. The building of it, a lot of it is intuitive. It is different than PowerPoint, but in the sense that when you do create a chart, there's so many more options because there's so many more things you can do with it. you can show different variables. You can include benchmarks, stat testing, comparisons, and that's all stuff you set in the chart in Dapresy as opposed to importing the actual data, like just those data points into a chart in PowerPoint. The back end, I feel like it takes some training. It takes a couple times to remember everything, but the good news is even if you make a mistake here and there, it's easy to change. It's easy to fix your mistakes. So every time we build a dashboard, we always forget this one thing. It's easy to go back and fix it, and you'll notice right away when you're building, I forgot to create this variable that I need. Just go and create it and keep moving on with your design. So the design part's not hard. The back end takes a little bit of time to remember everything that you need to do in order to get the design.
Yeah, I think just to add on, I mean, you mentioned, you went through your whole progression of building dashboards, and you guys have been a great client. And I always call it down to let's, start small, keep it simple. It's easy to build on, and that's, a lot of clients we've had, they just want to build a Cadillac from the very beginning. And the reality is, we just need to get the information out and then just keep building in and, continue to improve upon dashboards as you push them out.
All right, thank you. And I believe our last question for the day is for Evelyn. And does Turnkey have any way of measuring the satisfaction of these dashboards and seeing the kind of ROI that you've received?
Theoretically. We have not specifically sent a survey out to our clients asking them for their satisfaction, but we have very close relationships with them. So our sales team is talking to them all the time. They get direct feedback from them. The leagues we work with, they talk to the teams all the time and share that feedback with us. So it's, in terms of actual satisfaction measures, no, but we get feedback from the teams of asking them to change things to make it more valuable for them. And that's really been valuable for us. So we've gotten better and better feedback throughout the years as we incorporate their ideas.
That's great to hear. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and share these amazing insights. Thank you, John. Appreciate everything you did today. And thank you everyone who attended. We really appreciate you all joining us. I know it's kind of tough to come in right after a lunch for most of you. So thank you for all the great questions. And if you would like to watch this again, it will be available on our website. I'll be sending it out via email to all of you who have registered. If you want to follow up with us, just visit dapresy.com or turnkeyse.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers.